Introducing our new series of intimate in-person trading conferences in some of the greatest cities in America. It's Market Rebellion Live. Next up, this June in Sonoma County, California. Savor some of the finest wines in America while you level up your trading with Pete Najarian, John Najarian, AJ Monty, Ryan Mastro, and Bill Johnson. Sonoma is limited to just 25 seats to ensure every guest gets personal attention, so act now. Tickets are going fast.
Welcome back, Market Rebels, and to all of our options traders out there in YouTube land. And Stu, pretty good little market rally today going on. Yeah.
We were up a little bit. I think about 1% or so.
About 1%, I think, is what I saw going into the close. Yep. Looking like a pretty strong rally going in there.
A little rally at the end.
Yeah. So as always, for anybody who might be new, we want to just give you different insights, mostly from a professional trader's viewpoint on and really how to make better decisions with options. And so we know we've got a lot of new traders. We have a lot of advanced traders. And so today, Stu, this is one that I think applies to everyone. We were just talking about this in Q&A, and a lot of people seem to miss this. Probably one of the most important topics in all of options trading. So a really good topic for everyone today. Yeah. So we're going to get started. And as always, before we get started, also want to give a special shout out to EE, one of our newest traders out there in LA, joining us for the first time. And so let's start off with Chalk Talk. All right. So Chalk Talk, this is a little question a little teaser we like to give people before the start, make you think. So here's the question. This is where everybody seems to get tripped up. So the question is, would you have an edge if you could win 80% of your trades? All right. So we want people to think about that.
I'm going to put a little hint. I'm going to put a little hint out there. Watch the wording here. This is if you could win 80% of your trades. This has nothing to do with probability.
Ooh.
Just the sheer number of how many did I win versus on how many tries.
Right. You place 10 trades, 8 of them are profitable. That's what we're talking about here.
That's your hint of the day. Shoot.
And a lot of people will say, well, heck yeah, of course. How could you possibly lose winning 80%?
Yeah.
Now, this could come whether you just have that intuitive feel that people talk about with the markets, or maybe it's from technical indicators. Whatever your source is, there's your question. And so we want you to write it down, commit to an answer, and then, of course, we'll come back at the end and give you the answer. And if you pay attention to the presentation, you should find the solution on your own. So we'll come back and revisit that. So our topic today, Stu, is price versus value.
Near and dear to my heart.
We live by it. So as options traders, we know that most people use these terms interchangeably. We say, what's the price of something? What's the value? It kind of means the same thing. Not true in trading.
Wrong.
There's a very big distinction. And if you're not aware of what that distinction is or how you would go about solving it, then this is the presentation for you. That's what we want to make sure that people understand. So let's do an example, first of all, outside of the industry, rather than talking about options or futures or implied volatility and all these esoteric topics. Let's talk about an easier example. So Stu, in fact, I know you're out home shopping right now.
I am.
So here's a good question. I think most people have probably been in this situation out there shopping for a home. But is $1 million home expensive? And is a $150,000 home cheap? All right, so I want you to think about that again, kind of commit to an answer. And we want you to think about why you chose it. Now, most people would say, well, yeah, I think $1 million home is considered an expensive home. And I do think that a $150,000 home would be, in today's world, a pretty good deal. That would be really on the cheap side. That's the way that most people... Sure, of course. Why not? Buy two. But the reason that people do this is they're looking at things in absolutes. They're saying in the big scheme of things, or looking at averages, or what most people have, yeah, I would say that $1 million home is expensive and a $150,000 home is cheap. But what if we say this is the $1 million home? Now, when they look at this, they go, well, my God, that's a steal. And I'd say, well, hold on a second. You just told me that $1 million home was expensive. And now
Bill,
you're
is that your beach house?
That's Roscoe's beach house, exactly. That's his swimming pool right up here. So the point is that it's not about the dollars, it's the dollars versus what are you getting. And that's what we would call the value. So yes, you can look at the price in the big scheme of things and say, yeah, $1 million is expensive for a home, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't jump at the chance to pay $1 million for a home like this. That would be a ridiculous steal. But you already see that there's a little bit of a dichotomy going on. We're going, we just said it was expensive and now we're saying it's cheap. How is that possible? It's because
just so everybody knows, this house that Bill is showing you here, this is actually a real house. This house is 20 minutes, maybe half hour from where you live, right, Bill?
Yep. Yeah, this is, I think, the founder of Tivana, if I remember correctly.
He's the one that bought it. That's right.
Yeah, owner of Tivana. So anyway, so back to our price and value thing. Now, most people, again, would say $150,000 for a home would be very cheap. That would be a good deal. Mm-hmm. But what if this was the house? Then you're going to say, well, come on, that would be grossly overpaying for it. And then my response would be, well, hold on a second. You just told me less than a minute ago that $150,000 would be a steal. It'd be a great deal. And they say, well, I guess we have to really qualify it and say, well, what are you getting for the money? And therein lies the problem for options traders. Everybody can
Bill, is that the ocean behind the house?
You know what? I think it is. Actually, now that I think you're right, Stu. I think if you mention
then
that,
it
that's
might
still,
be a steal.
Well, that's actually another good question. Kind of right back to what we were talking about. It might not be a steal in some areas, but it could still have a lot of value.
Yeah,
maybe
it's all
it's just a lot.
Value. Yeah.
The house by itself, I think we can agree is not worth much.
Right.
But again, what we're trying to show you is that as options traders, you have to look beyond this idea that, like one that we hear a lot, Stu, is, well, $3 and less is a good deal for an option. And anything over $3 and certainly over $5, I would never touch. That's too expensive. And that is absolutely—
might be the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard.
It's a ridiculously bad way to trade, because this is exactly what you're going to fall into. You're going to get somebody offering you that house for $1 million that we just saw, and you're going to say, no, that's way too expensive. And then you're going to find an option in housing terms like this for $150,000. You'll say, oh, that's a steal. Let me buy it. Well, it's not.
How about if there's a $20 option? Is that expensive or is that not expensive? But how about if it's trading a $50 under parity? Then it's free money.
Not even not even an option anymore. Yeah. Or what if it's a 3-year option on back when Amazon was pushing $3,000? Now you're below cost to carry. It's a ridiculous steal, even though it's a $20 option. See, so we have to dig a little deeper.
What the value is. Mm-hmm.
Correct. So as options traders, what we want you to understand right now is get out of this habit of picking a line in the sand and saying that an X dollar option, $3 and below, is a good deal and anything above is expensive. We hear this all the time for people. And this is a good example of why you should understand it's a bad idea. If you can understand it in the housing market, you should be able to see it's the same idea in the options market. So as Warren Buffett said, one of our favorite quotes as traders, price is what you pay, but the value is what you get. And that's why we have to separate these. All right, so now keeping that in mind, let's go to a pricing model. I got to clear my cameras out of the way here. There we go. So we've got a $100 stock, 100 strike, 90 days to expiration, 30% volatility, 3% interest rate. We choose calculate. It's telling us that the call is worth about $6.30. So again, some people would look at this and go, $6? There's no way I'm spending that much for an option. That is way overpriced. Well, according to a pricing model, that's fair value. If all of these terms over on the left are true, that's exactly what you should pay for it. That's exactly where you should sell it. And you would be expected to break even in the long run. So how can you say it's a bad deal? We can't really say it's a bad deal. We can't say it's a great deal. It's called fair value for a reason. But what you're looking at as a trader
and
is
it's fair value. It's fair value at that pricing level right there.
Yep. And that's what we're looking at. So we see the price is 630. That's the price you're going to see in the market. But what Stu and I are going to look at is over here. Here's your value. So now if you show me that it's worth $6.30 at 30%, now I can tell you what I'm getting for the 630. Now I can tell you if it's a good deal, bad deal, so-so deal, whatever.
Yeah.
Now the reason
you're not paying 630, you're paying 30 volatility.
You're paying 30 volatility,
right? Because you can take a look at this option, $6.30. This says about, we'll just call it a 50 delta. Suppose the stock went up $1, right? This option should be 630 plus 50, 680. Now, is it expensive? I don't know. How about the next step? Where does it become expensive? Except what's happening is the stock is moving around, and that's what's affecting the price, not the level of the price.
Not the price level, right? Now, some people will say, well, hold on a second. What if we did a different strike or different days to expiration, different interest rates? And that's true. But remember, you as an options trader are trading a single option, or at least analyzing a single one at that moment. So we take all of these other factors as given. The strike is fixed. If you're looking at the $100 strike, you got to put 100 into the model. If you have 90 days to expiration, you got to put 90 days. If interest rates are 3%, you got to use 3%. Dividends are 0, we got to put 0. But the place where we might differ is the volatility. And so as options traders, this is really going back to our house example. If somebody says, is $1 million expensive or is 150,000 cheap? That's looking over here. And as professional traders, we're going to say, I don't know. I need to know what I'm getting for it. And that's where we're going to look over here. And now we can start to say, is it a good deal or is it not? So this whole idea of fair value is critically important for traders. Otherwise, you are going to be led to false perceptions and bad decisions. So here's a good example. We use this a lot in Q&A, don't we, Stu? Let's say we take 10 numbers, we shuffle them up, we put them into a hat, and I don't know, let's pick a game here. I'm going to say that if you pick the numbers 1 through 8, you're going to win $1. Any number 1 through 8, 9 and 10 you lose, but 1 through 8 you win. And we're going to put them in, we're going to shuffle them up, and we're going to play this game over and over and over. Now, the question is, do you have an edge? See, now people are saying, well, of course I do.
Looks like you do.
It looks like you do if you're only looking at in this case, what the game is, but you're not considering price and value. It's exactly
Bill, do I
like
have to
options.
Pay to play this game?
You would have to pay.
Do I have to pay?
Question is, how much do you pay?
So how much do I have?
Correct. Or you would have to bet, but there has to be some type of a payment or something that we're putting at risk. And therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
So if we have an 80% chance to win.
Do I pay?
Right. So if we have an 80% chance to win, mathematically, we can say there's 8 ways to win. Those were the numbers 1 through 8. You have 2 ways to lose. Those are the numbers 9 and 10. So mathematically, we would say that you have 8 to 2 odds in your favor, or we can reduce it to 4 to 1. So the reason that we put things in terms of odds like this is it makes bets very easy to value. This means you would have to pay 4, that's this number here, to make 1, or pay 8 to make 2. We can ratio it out into any way, pay 400 to make 100. And if you do that, that is a fairly valued bet. Not a good deal, not a bad deal, just okay. It's just fair to the buyer and the seller. But notice that right there is the value. That's kind of the nature of the game. Here's the price. And what we have to do is we can't just say I win 80% of the time, it's a good deal. I can't say that I have to pay 4, it's a good deal because that's cheap. I have to balance price with value, the nature of the game. So if the price equals the value, it's a fair deal. Not great, not bad, just fair. You would expect to break even in the long run. So let's do that, Stu. Let's put this into Excel. We're going to do a simulated game for 2,000 tries at this game. And look what happens. Just kind of goes sideways.
Nothing happens.
Nothing. Well, that's a good point. You and I know this. We would say over time because that's what we're looking at. Is it possible we could win? Sure, you could
Yeah,
go
you
on
could
winning
kill it.
streaks. And you could kill it.
That's
You could also get killed. You're buying in here, you sell down here, you panic and you bail. This is just volatility, but it's the big picture that's going sideways. That is a very good description of a fairly valued game.
You could bet you could take out a mortgage, an extra mortgage on your house, scrape all your money together, take every nickel you can scrape together, and you can go bet on some out of the money option and some stock that you heard something about, and you could bet it all, and you might actually win. You might have a life-changing event, or you might lose it all.
Yep.
Right? You can bet on the black or red on the roulette wheel.
Sure. And sometimes too many traders do that. Say, oh, I'm doing this particular strategy and I'm 4 for 4. Therefore, I got it all figured out. That's not true. I mean, you can see here, even in a fairly valued bet, you can go on very long winning streaks. Now, you might look at this and say it's a losing streak, but that's only to one side of the trade. The trader on the other side was winning. So all you're looking for are long streaks. These are all potential winning streaks, and that can certainly happen. But what would happen if we had to pay more than fair value? All right, we know that our value is 4 to 1. So our fair value, we said, is 4 to 1. What if you had to pay 410? So this would be Uncle Stewie here on the floor. He would have his bid below fair value and his offer above fair value. So now we come in and we say, oh, hey, I've got an 80% chance of winning, and it's only $4 roughly, 410. That's a cheap option. Remember, anything below 5 is cheap. Again, people have these weird ideas of how to assess option values. But in this case, we would see it as that the price is greater than the value. And therefore, it's not a good deal. You and I wouldn't touch this, would we, Stu? Oh, we'd sell it.
Well, not from the buying side, but from the selling side, I would want to be a participant. You
would want to be a participant, right? If it's not a good deal to buy, it must be a great deal to sell. Yep. Which is also why it's wrong when people say you should be. Yeah. Which is why it's wrong when you hear a lot of traders saying, oh, you should always be the seller because the sellers always win. Well, if that were true, the price is going to get worked. Nope, it's going to get worked down into a point where it's no longer true. It's not about that you win 80% of the time or even 90% of the time. What is the price? There has to be a price at that value. So what would happen here, Stu, if we were to buy this bet for 410, this little hat deal?
It's not going to look good.
Not going to look good. Can you win? Sure, you can buck the odds in the short run. As you can see in the short run here, we were actually above 0. If you're going to beat it, it's going to be in the short run, and you might get little pockets of wins throughout. But overall, this is what you have to look at. It is not a good deal to be the buyer. This is where we're going to lean towards being the seller. Why? Because the price is greater than the value. But do you see what we're doing?
Bill, this looks like a triple levered ETF fund.
In a bull market. Yeah, exactly. An inverse fund. Yep. That's exactly what they look like. But you have to pay attention and balance the price with the value. Now, do we see this outside of other areas? Of course. So we'll look at that. Here's one where we pay less than fair value. What if you got this bet for $3.90? See what happens now? In both cases, in all 3 cases, we're winning 80% of the time. But in one case, we go sideways. Another, we head straight south. Another, we go straight north.
So look, everybody, put this into perspective. Think about this now. You have a market. You want to pay for. You want to sell them at 4. Oh, I'm going to. And why? Because you're not really paying attention to implied volatility. You're paying attention to the market, which is now giving you a midpoint. Hey, I want to be able to buy them at the midpoint. Well, now you're at the midpoint. So you're trading them. You're trying to trade them at 4, but the market maker is not taking it, or the market maker is not letting you buy it. Well, how come? Because it's a fair value trade. Nobody's here to make money. Nobody's here to trade for fair value. Everybody needs an edge, because otherwise, well, look, I don't know about otherwise. You have to have a reason to make the trade. And the reason is because you're trying to make money. So if it's a fair value trade, you can't be you might get lucky, but you can't be expected to make any money. So when you have a market 390, 410, there's a fair value. If you assume that 30 volatility, there's a fair value at 4. So don't expect really to trade it at fair value, you might, but if you have to pay 402 or 405 to get it done, to make a donation to the marketplace to get it done, so what? So you paid a little bit above fair value. Maybe you'll get lucky a little bit. You'll have the edge of probability a little bit against you. However, you'll be in the trade. And that's the trading part of things. So you have to make that decision. It's about measuring how much over fair value that is, or is it under fair value?
Sure.
And the only way to do that is the common denominator, and it's implied volatility.
Yep.
You have to be able to look at that. The $4 means zero.
Yep. And there's a way we can battle that too. In Stu's example, if we found that it was still well above fair value, maybe we move deeper in the money and get it closer to parity. But you have to know what you're looking at and which numbers to judge. Now, let's take a look at an example outside of the industry. Stu, we were in Las Vegas not too long ago, and a game that we see all over the floor there is roulette. Lots of different numbers you can bet on roulette, but one in particular is a single number bet. You pick one number. If it comes up, they pay you at 35 to 1. Now, again, here's where a lot of options traders make a horrific mistake. They'll say, this must be a good strategy because I can win 35 times the amount that I can lose. They look at things in terms of risk reward. And to make it even worse, they'll say, oh, I'm only risking $1, which implies that it's low risk, but I can win 35. So let's do this strategy. It's, again, a horrible, horrible way to make decisions. What we have to do is say, what's the nature of the game, what's the value, and what's the price? Now, we know that there's 38 spaces at least on an American wheel, which gives us 37 spaces against us, right? If you're betting on one of those 38, there's 37 working against you. They should pay off at 37 to 1, but they're paying off at 35 to 1. So what are they doing to us here, Stu? They're shortchanging us by $2. There's our.
They're taking a nickel out of every time I put $1 on the table.
About 5.25% edge against you. So if we were to simulate roulette,
37 is 5.25%.
Yep, there we go. Now I had to do it for 5,000 spins because the edge is very small, but it does show up. So here we go, 5,000 spins of a roulette wheel. Again, we can see that we beat it in the short run, but you're not going to beat it out here. So if you're going to beat roulette, lay it all on black or red on one bet, or even on a single number on one bet. That is mathematically your best way to beat it. But over time, you're guaranteed.
Do it on one trade.
Yep, you're guaranteed to lose.
Yeah, don't take 20,000 and spend all night at the table.
Well, that's the worst.
Take 20,000 and bet at one time. Is that the moral of that story?
Well, mathematically, if you want to win it, that's the moral. If you're out there for a different goal, to say I want to just have fun, sure, but realize what's happening.
Spin the wheel for a few hours. Yeah.
Yep. Now, another thing we actually saw recently, last time we were out there, Stu, is the casinos put these monitors at the roulette tables, and they show you like the last 50 spins. They give you all kinds of statistical breakdowns, which colors, which numbers, whether they odd or even, all kinds of things. And people sit there and
this table's hot.
Oh, yeah, this table's hot. This is the way that options traders look at stuff, or look at the technical indicators. It's got to be a good deal because it's about to go up. Wrong. We need to look at the price you're paying versus the value that you're getting for the option. Not that you're going to win 80% of the time. As we just showed, that doesn't matter. We always have to measure price versus value. All right, so now hopefully you got that concept through to people, Stu. How do we do it in the markets? Well, here's a screenshot of Tesla that we did earlier today. Stock was up about 173. And just hypothetically, let's say we're in this 29 days. So let's call it a 30-day option. And we've got the 185 strike. Trading for 470. That's a pretty cheap option, isn't it, Stu?
For Tesla, it's pennies.
Pennies. Yeah. But does that mean it's a good deal?
I have no idea.
We have no idea. Now, I want everybody to think about that for a moment. Stu survived nearly 30 years as a market maker on the Philadelphia floor. I'd be willing to bet if I asked most of you, is that a cheap option? You would have said yes. And Stu is saying, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
How is that possible? How can he be a professional trader and say, I have no idea if that's a good deal? Because he's just looking at the price. Yeah. He's got to measure that.
I'm not gambling. See, I could say, hey, $5 is nothing. I don't give a shit. I'll just put it out there. Maybe I'll lose it, and then I'm gambling. But as professionals, we don't want to be gamblers.
No.
Right? We want to be people that create a probability that's on our side. That's how you make money.
Exactly.
That's how you do it. You need to have the edge. People tend to get the edges from different places. Price doesn't mean anything. Price is just a what's the word here? It just comes out of
just
a model.
Number. Yep.
It's just a number that is being created from an arithmetic model.
Right.
But
what it's actually showing you, what the model is. Yeah, what the model is showing you, those are the expected gains that you would be expected to make, $4.70. So that should be the price that you would have to pay, which is why it's a little curiosity when people say, oh, you should be the option seller. If I sold this for $4.70, those would be the expected losses. So you're not gaining anything just because you're the option seller. We have to go back to price and value. So this does give us...
My buddy Greg McDermott would tell you that the more money is made on the tails being a long gamma guy than a short gamma guy.
And then a short gamma, yep. Any floor trader will tell you that. All right, so where would we look? This will definitely give you part of the picture. No doubt. We have to look at the price, but we need to assess it against value. Do not just stop here and say it's good or bad. So what we're going to do is say, okay, yeah, that's the price, but where do we find the value, Stu?
In the column that's missing.
Yep.
The implied
Which is
volatility.
What? Yeah, this is the implied volatility here in purple. And this is historic. We've got the implied volatility in this light blue. And we're going to compare this to the historic. That's one way. Or what else could we do?
Compare current implied volatility over implied volatility, over historical implied volatility.
Right. So those are a couple of ways.
Which is how I do it. Right. That's how I do it. Where does the vol like to have a home? Where is it comfortable? Where does it like to live? Where can I expect it to be over a longer period of time? And then I have kind of like a mean idea, and I can look at it and I can say, oh, it's trading way up here. I can't buy it there. I got an edge against me. Sure. Or it's trading down here. Over time, it reverts to a mean. It has to, like mathematically,
it has sideways. To. Yeah. So you notice these graphs just go sideways. So without getting into the nitty gritty, if you just look at the blue line, and if you go sideways, it looks like it likes to live around this level. And where is it now, relatively speaking? It's well below that level. So the implied volatility is relatively low. But that's
now. Let me add a quick note here.
Sure.
So this is the market, and of which we are all part of. It's not specialists. It's not the market makers.
Yep.
It's not the robots. It's everybody who's even thinking about looking at an option is creating a market. And that market, that implied volatility, may look historically low.
Yep.
What the implied volatility of the current time is representing is what the market thinks the future looks
volatility.
Like.
Right.
Which makes it what? A best guess. There's no way to know what's going to happen.
Yep.
All we can do is make a market.
Yep. So for anybody out there who might be thinking, oh, the way that I trade options is I say, well, I've got a high probability for the stock to go up, or I could see that this technical indicator means there's a high probability to make money. And I know that a $5 option and below is a good deal and above is a bad deal. I'm telling you, in the long run, you will end up in the hole with that. You have to measure the price versus the value. How much am I paying, but what am I getting for it? So if you ever find that concept a little elusive, go back to the house example. It's just harder to see here because with a house, we can see it with our eyes. With the option, we don't. We see the price, but we fail to see the value. So if that's a new concept to you, hopefully that will at least give you some things to think about. And as always, you can check us out if you want to get coaching or marketrebellion.com/get started. And I think I forgot my advertising slides in there, Stu. But yes, please check that out, marketrebellion.com/get started. And lots of great free training videos and materials for you. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and take.
Can I before you move on real quick here?
Sure.
Before you move on real quick, can you go back a slide and let me see that matrix slide again? The price, the market. Yeah, that one. So So these are the June Tesla for, what are these? The 185s. I'm trying to read it. 16
Yep,
June
185s.
185s. Got it. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All
So
right,
let's
let's
go back to our chalk talk. So go back to the question, would you have an edge if you could win 80% of your trades? Now, we asked this question because we had a feeling most people are going to say, well, of course, that's an obvious question. But now after seeing this, we hope you have a different perspective. That's what this whole thing is about. The answer to this is yes, if the price is less than the value. It should not just be an overwhelming yes just because you can win 80% of the time. All right, so if that's a little kind of a new concept to you, it shows that you really need more training, not just to trade just because you think you know where the stock is going or just because you have some arbitrary line in the sand as to what a cheap or expensive option is. So with that, Stu, any final words?
What Bill has on the screen here is people try and develop what's called a batting average.
Correct.
If I could just improve my average win from 5 to 6, then I'm a winner. Maybe I can even get really good and make it 8. That'll help, but it's not going to make it work.
It's
not going to make it work unless you're paying attention to the 20% of your trades that are losing. Those 20% can outweigh the winners you get from the 80%.
Yeah, a very simple example is you win 80% of the time. Yeah, you win $1 80% of the time, and you lose $1,000 the remaining 20% of the time. It's got nothing to do with your average.
You could have 800 trades and you make yourself, $100,000, and 200 trades loses you $200,000. I mean, how'd you do?
Yeah, I won 80%. So you can see that that's not really where the game is played. It's always about price versus value. And so we hope you at least gave you some things to think about if that's a new concept for you. So Stu, any closing comments?
Yeah. So real quick story. So my good friend who's not with us anymore, Ron Ianieri, we used to do a class together Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 to 11. It was a trading class. We had a client in there who owned an option, and I don't really remember the price. I'll just kind of make it up. Say it was $5. And the next day it was trading for 20. The stock gapped up really big.
That's big.
And the next day it's trading for 20. And it was right on the opening, and the stock was wild. And the market on the option was $4 wide.
Wow. And
I said to the guy, well, what are you going to do? He says, well, I want to sell the option. I said, okay. You going to put it out there? He says, well, no, it's too wide. It's $4 wide. I don't want the market makers to beat me up. I said, so what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to wait until the markets calm down and they tighten up the bid and the ask.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I said to the guy, look, that may happen, but
it may not.
The stock may be back down under where it closed yesterday, and you're going to lose all of your intrinsic value.
Right.
So the moral of the story is this: know how to value an option. It just so happens that option was trading at parity, or would have been, or could have been, I should say, trading at parity. And had that particular trader entered an order 5 cents, 5 cents under parity,
or 5 cents,
it would have traded just like that
immediately,
automatically. I mean, the ink wouldn't have even been dry on the order, and that thing would have traded. And that person would have been out, and he would have got everything, but he didn't. He took tremendous risk by not knowing how to value an option.
So good story. We like that. Lots of good stories and lots of nightmare stories from the floor. But these are some of the things we like to share in our Q&A. So if you're not part of Market Rebellion, please check us out, marketrebellion.com/get started. And I think that's all we have for you here. I hope that gives you some things to think about. We want to wish everybody a great upcoming weekend, and we'll look for you next Thursday.
Adios.